What's up? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel, Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's No More Couch Detective, and I'm here for the news. And today we're going to be going over several clips that is happening around the nation. And a couple of these clips are a little dark today, but sometimes it's necessary to go over these clips because sometimes they make you extremely uncomfortable, but we have to know what's going on around us, right next door to us, sometimes right beneath us. I always make a reference to the movie Blade. And in the movie Blade, there was a lot of blood drinking, human sacrificing, ritualistic killing, and all those type of things. And I always tell people, a lot of times they tell you the truth in movies and TV shows and lie to you on the news. And when you're watching the news, you have to be able to use discernment and read in between the lines. And a couple of these clips, they're going to kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. But in these first two clips, I'm not going to talk a lot, but I will stop it once or twice on these videos because they're a little long. I usually don't do clips this long, but these clips are necessary for you to go through and see what's going on. We have a convicted sex offender accused of killing 5 babies in California in a cold case. Now, how you able to kill 5 kids that are your own is beyond me. And this happened over a extended period of time. But let's take a look at the clip.
Well, late last year, we spotted the FBI digging around in western Fresno County. Fox 26 News later learned that this was linked to a decades-old cold case involving the deaths of 5 babies.
Reporter Sophia Lessios has been investigating the gruesome murders and is here to tell us why it took so long for law enforcement to make an arrest.
In this case, 5 infants were killed between 1992 and 2001, and to this day, not all of their bodies have been found. And detectives say their father is accused of killing them. Many questions have surrounded this case, but one seems to be at the forefront. If this is true, how did he get away with this for so long?
Great question.
The details of the story might be disturbing for some viewers. Here's what I found out.
Today, we are announcing charges against Paul Perez for the serial murder of 5 of his own children, all babies.
That was back in January 2020, 13 years after a fisherman pulled an infant's body out of a waterway just east of the city of Woodland, near Sacramento.
In my 40 years in law enforcement, I cannot think of a case more disturbing than this one.
That baby, found in 2007, was less than 6 months old. He was found in a plastic container made to withstand the elements. His body, crushed by weight at the bottom of the slough.
As you can imagine, having an unsolved death of a child in our files has haunted my agency for years.
And when they said that, I think that baby was still alive.
The Yolo County Sheriff's Office couldn't determine who left.
I mean, like still alive when he threw the baby in the water, because it said it was able to survive the elements. So that makes you think the baby's still alive. So this man is truly sadistic.
Was, or how it got there, until October 2019.
The infant was identified through DNA as Nico E. Perez by DNA comparison, and it was known that the baby boy was born on November 8th, 1996 in Fresno, California.
The discovery brought this cold case back to life.
The science and power of DNA has shown that monsters and killers cannot hide forever any longer.
The Yolo County Sheriff's Office also determined baby Nico had other siblings with the same fate. 5 of Paul Allen Perez's 6 children were murdered, all born between 1992 and 2001. Detectives say the kids were killed by means of lying in wait and through torture.
This case revealed unspeakable evil, and these acts ignited a resolve in the hearts of all involved to bring justice to the vulnerable and innocent victims of this case.
Horrified, unbelievable. I've been with parents who murdered children for 30 years, and I've heard many stories of murder and what happened, and listened to many people cry. But this one is something I can't even understand. It's probably one of the worst ones I have ever heard of.
And I do have to stop her right there because when she said it's one of the worst ones she's ever heard of, some of the acts were so heinous and despicable that they won't even say it on TV. And let me say this, a lot of these people, like I've covered so many cases like this over the years and watched so many of these type of clips, they leave a lot of the details out. A lot of these people are Luciferians, they practice witchcraft, and they're a lot of them are just flat out Satanists. And in that religion, the religion of Aleister Crowley, who was one of, if you don't know who that is, one of the head Satanists in modern times, sex with underage children and child torture is part of the rituals that they commit. Sex magic with underage kids and babies is like something that they really do. So it's heinous, and it's tough for them to try to explain. They want to give it to you, but they can't give you all the heinous details.
Questions?
Why wasn't this reported earlier, and why wasn't an investigation done from day one?
And where was the mother in all of this? According to documents from Yolo County Superior Court, Yolanda Perez is the mother of at least 4 of the babies killed. The Davis Enterprise reported Yolanda Perez was interviewed multiple times by detectives. She confessed to witnessing the infant's abuse and disappearances, but she never reported it because she was scared.
No, they both were Luciferians.
You know, if you tell on him, he's gonna.
They were doing ritualistic child abuse and sexual abuse on them kids.
The office later charged Yolanda Perez with 4 counts of murder and child endangerment. She pled guilty to child endangerment in September 2022. She is not behind bars and is still waiting for her sentencing.
And I really do. I feel for the mother and what she's going to have to go through, you know, in the next couple years to deal with this and to get this taken care of. I feel for the sister if she has to testify. You know, that's very difficult to do.
According to testimonies, she and Paul Perez's other daughter, Brittany Perez, never spoke up. Criminal psychologist Dr. Eric Hickey actually focused on this case in one of his classes he taught at Fresno State. He says if Brittany and Yolanda kept quiet, Child Protective Services would have never known.
You can't blame CPS because they tried to do their job. If this couple kept moving location to location, they wouldn't know what was going on until, fortunately, a fisherman found the body.
The real question is,
My question is, how do you kill 5 babies over the course of 9 or 10 years and nobody's really asking no real questions? That shit seems almost impossible. But the sister and the mother of the children, they were all Satanists / Luciferians practicing witchcraft and all that type of shit. There's no doubt about that in my mind. The other lady who was just talking before, she's like, I feel sorry for them letting them off the hook. No. Everybody has to pay.
law enforcement have done anything earlier? Probably not.
We continually review our cold cases, with this being an especially open question mark that we want to bring closure to. You're as motivated as ever to solve this case.
I reached out to the Yolo County District Attorney's Office for additional information and documents pertaining to Paul Perez. In a letter, the Chief Deputy District Attorney said she would not give...
And you can see the eyes is the window to the soul. His eyes is pitch black. I mean, this is if they showed his tattoos, I would bet every dime I got you'll start seeing pentagrams and goats and all type of... I would almost guarantee it. There's no doubt about it.
any additional information about him and denied my interview request with the DA about the case because it's still an ongoing investigation.
Having 5 infants involved in this case, does that also give additional motivation to continue to want to close this case?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, every victim it matters to us, and every case matters to us. This one is particularly sensational. We want to make sure that justice is served. We want to bring closure and honor the lives of those infants that were taken needlessly.
Paul Allen Perez was already a convicted sex offender, and Dr. Hickey says in his decades of studies, this could have played a part in the killings.
Here, these 5 little children, because they found to be tortured, that means that there had been some element of sadism involved, very likely.
Yep, there it is.
And, as I mentioned to some law enforcement, said you should consider that this could be a sex crimes case. Most people,
Of course.
even murderers generally don't go to this type of extent. So that tells me that this person's been fantasizing a great deal about doing harm to babies.
And in his professional opinion, Dr. Hickey doesn't believe mental illness ever played a part in the murders.
Sometimes people say he had been crazy to do this.
No, he was practicing his religion. No, he's not crazy.
Crazy means mental illness. There was forethought, there was planning, there was a methodology, there was sadism.
There it is.
It speaks to mental illness, it speaks to evil.
If Paul Alan Perez is convicted, Dr. Hickey says one thing is clear. He never had an attachment to any of his own babies.
It kind of verifies to me that there is evil in this world. We all do wrong things, but this wasn't just wrong things we're given back, and this was horrifically horrible. That came out of something that something in hell would do.
Paul Perez was arrested in the killings of 5 of his infant children on the same day of his prison release on unrelated charges. Since Perez is facing a number of criminal enhancements, this case could be eligible for the death penalty. But in 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a moratorium on capital punishment in the state. This means that while the death penalty is still technically on the books, no one is currently being put to death by the state of California. Sophia Lesios, Fox 26 News.
Well, let me give my thoughts on this before I move on to the next clip. Number one, how many more other kids has he probably killed? Who knows? Usually these type of people, when they get caught for 5 or 6, they probably done 12 or 13, or maybe even more. Number two, how I think he was making money, I think this was ritualistic. He probably was doing this in these satanic cult circles, which they do. And I'm pretty sure he was selling videos. I'm pretty sure he was doing this type of stuff live. You'd be surprised of the type of people who are into this. This is not just low life. Sometimes these people be politicians. Sometimes these people be actors and athletes. You'd be surprised some of the people who get caught up in this type of satanic lifestyle. And it's a religion that they practice, and harming kids is part of it. Ritualistic child abuse is most definitely the number one thing that they do via Aleister Crowley and the practice of the religion of Luciferianism. There's no doubt about that, you guys. But may this guy rot in hell, and hopefully, because they said he was supposed to be released. You know, he was getting back out to get right back active. And all the same people and buddies was waiting on him. There's no doubt about that. But hopefully he rots in hell, and hopefully when he goes to jail, he pays the ultimate price. But you know, usually them people get separated. But hopefully he pays the price. When he dies, them demons will snatch the soul right out of his body. Let's go into this next clip. Lead detective reveals more about Arizona man burying his wife alive. Once again, another sick, sadistic human being. A lot of times they don't give you all the details, but if you go on these people's social websites and you dig into their search history, you'd be surprised at shit that you see. A lot of these people are into witchcraft and Luciferianism. This is another one, I would think. Some people might just say, oh, no, he just killed his wife. Hey, man, you can stab your wife, shoot your wife. There's a million ways to kill your wife, but this is burying somebody alive. Yeah, that's satanic. Let's take a look at the clip.
David Pagliano pleaded guilty for the 2017 murder of his wife, and tonight one of the lead detectives on this case revealing more in an exclusive interview. True Crime correspondent Brianna Whitney got that interview for us.
Yes, this is such an unusual case, and it is so sad. As far as homicides go, this one is particularly heinous and rare. Detectives believe Sandra Pagliano was alive and suffered in a grave before she died. One of the lead detectives says, though there is some comfort in justice, this crime is impossible to process and impossible to forget. Replaying what happened to Sandra Pagliano is a painful thought for the detective who stood at the crime scene this time not long ago.
We believe that it happened overnight, 7 years ago today in the early hours.
Yavapai County Sheriff Sergeant Jack Maddox says it all began when Sandra Pagliano went missing from her Prescott home while her young kids and husband, David Pagliano, were inside.
She had supposedly just left or disappeared, but he still was not calling in to report.
Instead, one of Sandra's friends called in a missing persons report, saying it was completely out of character for her to willingly leave. A mother very involved in her kids' lives and with the community. David showed police 2 notes reportedly handwritten and left behind by Sandra. One to her kids saying she had to leave, and the other to David, leaving him all of her property and belongings.
The handwriting analysis showed that those notes were in fact written by him.
With David as a person of interest, Maddox says they get...
I mean, how foolish can you be to think they're not going to do a handwriting analysis? That's just ridiculous. Like, where is these people's minds at? Like, this is just... That's just crazy.
Enough cell phone evidence that put him in the place Sandra Pagliano's body would ultimately in a hand-dug grave.
She was also bound around the mouth and around the head so that she would presumably be unable to make any noise. She was alive at the time that she was buried.
Horrifically, evidence showed she was likely conscious for up to 5 minutes after she was buried. The Yavapai County Sheriff's Office charged David Pagliano with first-degree murder. The county attorney was pursuing the death penalty. But on the eve of his trial, David decided to plead guilty and let the judge decide his fate. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Detective Maddox believes avoiding trial may protect their kids from more harm. He says they were 8 and 12 years old at the time their mother was killed.
It spares all of them having to relive all of those details.
Maddox says while justice is finally served, there are certain cases that stick with you forever. For him, this is one of them.
There are things that you experience that you think you'd never be able to experience something worse, and then along comes something like this.
In addition to the life sentence, David Pagliano was also sentenced to an additional 16 and a half years in prison for kidnapping Sandra, forging those notes, and fraud schemes. He will die behind bars, no parole.
Disturbing case. Why did it take so long to get a conviction 7 years later?
I don't know. I don't know what the delay was in that time frame. Justice system was slow. Obviously, we had COVID that had delays in every county around here. But I don't know why it took that long to get to trial. And then, of course, they prepare for trial, right? And a first-degree murder trial is always the hardest to prepare for. It typically takes years. There's so much evidence to go through, a lot of witnesses to interview, and they get there with all that work, and then he decides to take the plea deal the night before that trial began. That's pretty rare. Usually there's a decision made before that.
And you said lawyers think this is the best move to avoid a trial for the kids, but they're what, 15 and 19 years old? They know exactly what's going on.
They should be now, yeah. Those ages are just awful because they were young but old enough to know.
Yeah,
and so now they
know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I think that in looking at, death penalty versus not, that sergeant was saying, well, a trial they would have had to reopen and relive those wounds, but also they already lost one parent. If there's any sort of relationship to be had with him and these kids, he will be in prison to do so. So
it's so terrible.
Oh my gosh, but buried alive, that's the first time I've ever covered something like that.
And then still alive 5 minutes afterwards. Can't get any worse than that, for sure. Brianna, thank you.
You kind of just wonder, like, what did his wife do to deserve that? Like that's so low. And imagine being a kid and going into a young adult and starting to get, each year you get more and more of an understanding of what happened. You probably can't make sense of it, but you damn sure get more and more of an understanding of what exactly happened. But you'll never know why your dad did such a hideous and heinous thing. Like, damn, you lost 2 parents. One buried alive. I'm claustrophobic, so the thought of that just gives me the heebie-jeebies. But God rest that lady's soul, and God rest them baby's soul too. All 5 of them babies, and whoever else this maniac killed. Hopefully both of these guys' punishment. You know what the punishment should be for these type of people? It's the same exact thing they did to people. He should be tortured for 10 years over the 10 course years that he killed these 5 babies. And at the end of that 10 years of torture, then he should be killed. This guy, you know what he should get. They should bound his ass up and bury his funky ass alive. That's the punishment I think they should get. Personally. Let's take a look at this next clip. American Airlines apologizes for court filing blaming child victim of being filmed illegally by some pedophile on an airplane. Let's take a look at this clip.
A major airline is apologizing after saying a 9-year-old girl should have known about a hidden cell phone camera in a plane bathroom. One of their former flight attendants is currently facing federal charges. Our NBC 10's Eli Rosenberg joining us live at Logan Airport with reaction from the young girl's family. Eli, what are they telling you tonight?
The mother of that 9-year-old Priscilla says it was bad enough when FBI agents knocked on her door to say her 9-year-old daughter was a victim in all of this. Family ended up suing American Airlines, and it was American's response filed on Monday that this mom says had her throwing up all over again. Tonight, American is reversing course.
Well, that came from the lawyers. People hate lawyers. Lawyers are some of the most hideous, heinous people on the planet, especially these defense lawyers. Now, you have different kinds of lawyers, but these defense lawyers are some of the most heinous people on the planet. And let me tell you this. They had a movie called The Devil's Advocate. You guys remember that movie? With, what was the name? Keanu Reeves. And Lucifer was working through what, a law firm, and he was getting a pedophile off. Now imagine knowing somebody's guilty of pedophilia and still defending them for the money. That's why people hate. A lot of people really can grow to hate lawyers, and lawyers are despised, especially these defense attorneys, especially when you know your client is guilty. That lawyer came out with this, and then all of a sudden it goes public. They had to reverse course. They had no choice.
Tonight, American Airlines saying it made an error.
And by the way, that was Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves. Yeah, great movie, but it just goes to show what kind of lawyers, how they'll act even though knowing somebody's guilty.
Suggesting in court documents a 9-year-old should have known she was being secretly recorded while using an airplane's bathroom mid-flight.
I was appalled. Immediately I was nauseous, even reading and hearing that is the words that they used.
This mom didn't want to be identified. Her daughter, that 9-year-old. The family suing American Airlines after Estes Thompson III, a one-time AA flight attendant, was arrested. Federal prosecutors say he secretly recorded multiple girls, putting a 14-year-old on a flight bound for Boston last summer.
How can a company shame and bully a 9-year-old for something she had no knowledge of?
American Airlines filing a response to the family's lawsuit on Monday afternoon, saying in part, plaintiff's own fault and negligence were proximately caused by plaintiff's use of the compromised lavatory.
Wow.
She knew, or should have known, contained visible and illuminated recording device.
I've never heard. Listen to me. Because it's so detailed, you can't say it was a slip up or accident. That's why I say it comes from lawyers. Like when you putting this shit in the briefings or whatever, you putting this shit in the paperwork, you can't. That's not no mistake. That was purposeful. Now, they really knew they had to backtrack that. Like as soon as that came out publicly, that did not sound good. That just sounds terrible.
Cannot be unrun. They should never have adopted this outrageous legal strategy in the first place.
That was Monday. And today, this new statement with American Airlines saying they do not believe the 9-year-old is at fault. Adding, our outside legal counsel retained with our insurance company made an error in this filing. The included defense is not representative of our airline. We had directed it be amended this morning.
Should empathize with everything that we are going through, and this is the furthest from the truth. They are victimizing her even more so.
And right now, the family's lawsuit against American continues. Meanwhile, Thompson, the flight attendant, well, he was in federal court here in Boston yesterday. It's all about that case involving the 14-year-old who was flying here to Boston. He pleaded not guilty. Right outside of Logan, Eli Rosenberg, NBC 10 Boston.
Just terrible. But let's take a look at the guy who actually did it. This sicko is in there filming underage girls. He didn't set his camera up perfectly. And he must have had some kind of remote to start the recording because they said he only recorded underage girls. It wasn't no old-ass men and no saggy, middle-aged saggy women. No, he was going for the youngins. Let's take a look at this creep.
A flight attendant from Charlotte pleaded not guilty to secretly recording a 14-year-old girl using an airplane bathroom in September. 36-year-old Estes Carter Thompson III was a...
That's him. Real sicko. A lot of these creeps they come up through certain, or was raised under certain environments. Sometimes sexual abuse, or sometimes people just depraved. But sometimes people raised up in homes. When people practice witchcraft, there's kids a lot of times in these homes. When people are Luciferians, there's kids in these homes. There's some people are raised up into this. Some people think this shit is normal behavior, and it's just not. And, when you get to jail with this type of shit, this ain't the jacket you want on your back. Filming underage girls. That's what you don't want. He deserves to get his ass whooped twice a day.
Indicted on one count of attempted sexual exploitation of children. He was also indicted on possession of images of child sexual abuse. This happened on an American Airlines flight from Charlotte to Boston. Authorities say he put his phone over the toilet to record the teenager right before she used it. Police say that Thompson also had recordings of 4 other young teenagers using the airplane's bathroom. He's due back in court in July.
Yeah, real sicko. And American Airlines ought to be a goddamn shame. Blaming the 9-year-old little girl. That's just deplorable. Let's take a look at this. Lacrosse man arrested for producing and distributing and possessing AI-generated child porn. Now, we know that the AI-generated machines and like apps and stuff are starting to be used now. And they create some beautiful and wonderful photos. But only a sick, perverted human being would think to use that to create child pornography. Let's take a look at the clip.
New tonight, a man from Holman, Wisconsin was arrested and charged for crimes relating to inappropriate AI-generated images of children. The Wisconsin Department of Justice says 42-year-old Stephen Andered used text-to-image generative AI model to create realistic images of new children. He is charged with 4 counts relating to the production, distribution, and possession of sexually explicit content. He could face up to 70 years in prison if convicted.
Damn, 70 years in prison for AI-generated child porn. Do I think that's fair? 100%. Should have gave him 80. But that just lets you know with this AI-generated, hey, you can start creating snuff films where people being murdered. Because all it's going to do is get better and better, start looking realer and realer and more realistic. You can create sexual assault scenes. You can do all type of shit with that. I never thought about the AI-generated smut when it comes to like heinous acts. But now, hey man, it's here. It's out there. So this is one of the downsides to AI-generated movies, AI-generated clips, and whatever else, or pictures. But let's take a look at this next clip. U.S. honeybee population reaches record high. Now, the reason why I want to go over this clip, because I'll say about a year ago, my buddy told me it was a bee. I'm allergic to bees, by the way. But I stumped on a bee and killed the bee. And I was on the phone with him, and he said, "Man, you can't kill them bees. Them bees is endangered." And they pollinate. Now, I didn't know this. I didn't know they were endangered at the time. And he told me and laced me on game, my partner Jay. He was like, "Yeah, man, you can't be killing them bees, man. Them bees is, they pollinating, and we need the bees." And he broke it all down to me. And at the time, I didn't know. And after that, I never killed another bee. Even though I'm allergic to them, I never killed another bee. And watching this clip, they say it reaches record high. It makes me extremely happy to know that when people come together, you still can get beautiful things accomplished. And with these honeybees reaching a new record high, it lets you know that as a nation, we took it upon ourselves not to harm bees no more. No more bee spray, no more stepping on bees, no more trying to hurt or harm bees. Let's take a look at the clip.
2019 and 2022. That's according to the census.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm starting.
2006, bees across the United States started dying rapidly, so environmental activists put out a simple call to action: save plants and crops by saving the bees. It seems that the country listened. The U.S. honeybee population is now at an all-time high. The U.S. added nearly 1 million bee colonies between 2017 and 2022. That's according to the Census of Agriculture, which puts out data every 5 years. As of 2022, the honeybee population is believed to be at 3.8 million, a 31% increase from 2007. Clay Bolt joins me from Montana. He's the manager of pollinator conservation for the World Wildlife Fund, U.S. Thanks so much for being with us. So did we get it wrong that the bees were disappearing, or is this a result of great collective action?
Well, I wish I could say that the increase in honeybee numbers is due to the fact that we've reduced pesticides or increased habitat for bees. But the fact is, honeybees are a domesticated managed species, and we can rear them in greater and greater numbers as need be. Unfortunately, that's not the case for our wild bee species, our native species. We have around 20,000 species of native bee in the world, and around 4,000 in North America. And unfortunately, those numbers are not increasing in the same way that honeybees are.
Well, let's stay on that for just a second. What are the causes then of those other kinds of bees that are not increasing, and is that danger still acute, and what could some of the downsides?
Right. I did not know it was that many different species of bees.
Right.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest threats to all bees right now are pesticides. We use quite a lot of pesticides on our crops. And particularly if you look in the early 1990s when neonicotinoid pesticides, or neonics for short, were introduced, we began to see declines in not only in honeybees, but also many of our native bee populations. So reducing that would go a really long way towards helping those native species.
And now to the question that some people will wonder, okay, why do I need to care so much about bees? Knock them down with some piece of information that centers this conversation on what the effect of all of this could be.
Well, we typically think of bees as really important for producing our food, and there's a meme going around that if bees were to disappear, human life would immediately disappear. Well, the truth is, we would still have some things to eat. Many of our grains, corn, wheat are wind pollinated primarily. But the fact is that insects, like pollinators, are so vital to all of the ecosystems in the world. So you'd start to see collapses not just in food, but also in songbirds, in white-tailed deer that graze on plants that are supported by pollinators. The plants that pollinators, like native bees, for example, bumblebees, help pollinate, sequester water, keep carbon in the soil. So you would see these cascading effects across all ecosystems in the world. In other words, it goes well beyond the food that we eat.
And so just to sum up here at the end, give us a sense of what is positive in these developments, and then where the area of improvement still needs to take place and what can be done to help in that area.
Well, I think what's positive is that people are paying attention to bees. I think we have come a long way in the last 20 years in terms of understanding the value of bees of all kinds to the ecosystems in the world. And so just the fact that I can have a conversation with my neighbor about pollinators now is something that I couldn't do when I first started working on bees quite a few years ago. I think, though, that we really have to get beyond the idea of using systemic pesticides on every crop we produce without any kind of thoughtfulness. I think that going to a more thoughtful, careful use of pesticides would certainly increase the pollinator populations we have, and also providing space. Plants, bees need pretty much what we need. They need a pesticide-free environment. They need food, which comes in the form of native wildflowers, and they need a place to raise their young. And if we can provide those things, then bees would do a great job of coming back.
They will.
Well, that's a good thing. At least people are paying more attention to bees now. I know I don't kill them no more. I think a lot of people over the past, decade have started to, try to pay attention to this. And the honeybee population is on the rise. So that's a good thing. I love honey. There's so many great health benefits to honey. But, I just wanted to go over that clip. Shout out to my homeboy Jay for lacing me on that. Let's take a look at this next clip. Lawmakers helping detain Americans in Turks and Caicos. They had 4 people in Turks and Caicos who accidentally had bullets in their luggage. And now Turks and Caicos is holding these people. They're treating these people as if they were smuggling ammo into Turks and Caicos. Now, maybe one of them was, but most of these people weren't. I know one of the ladies, she had 2 bullets that was lodged in the bottom of her luggage. Turks and Caicos, whoever's in charge of this country is doing a terrible job of public relations when it comes to people vacationing in Turks and Caicos. That's where the majority of their money come from, is tourists. Take a look at the clip.
A bipartisan team of lawmakers visited Turks and Caicos to help bring home 5 detained Americans, including one named from Virginia. Chad Pergram has more on the story from Capitol Hill.
A coalition of bipartisan bicameral lawmakers organizing to help 5 American tourists. They face a minimum of 12 years in prison for accidentally leaving ammunition in their luggage on recent visits to the Turks and Caicos. A delegation of lawmakers met with officials from the islands. They hope to get the charges reduced to a customs fine, since the Americans posed no threats and carried no guns.
They go there completely of the best intention. They are not the ones sparking any sort of criminal activity or any sort of gang-related activity.
But Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen called the meetings unproductive. He said officials do not trust the American criminal justice system. And other lawmakers claim the Biden administration is not making this a priority.
State Department has not been actually very helpful. So that's why we went down as a congressional delegation to meet with the governing authorities there.
80% of all tourism in Turks and Caicos comes from the U.S. Some lawmakers are considering asking the State Department to issue a travel warning to the islands, while others are threatening economic retaliation. But Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman says he remains optimistic. He added that Turks and Caicos officials were, quote, understanding of the need to resolve the issue.
I'm optimistic. You know, he spent too much time there, but now we've been able to expedite this, and actually the TCI leadership appreciated us all coming down there, and that really brought it to the forefront.
The first sentencing hearing for the detained Americans is scheduled for Friday. On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
Yeah, they have those people down there, and I've seen several different clips, and the black woman is usually the focal point of the clips. It is, I think it's 3 other white men, if I'm not mistaken. They don't talk about them a lot at all. I don't know if the white man is a sympathetic figure at this point. If I was them, I also would have focused on the black woman. She's a grandmother. She's never been in trouble. And so, yeah, unfortunately for those white men, you know, people might pop their hands up, but at least you throw the older black woman who's a grandma, auntie, never been in trouble, and actually had 2 bullets lodged under there. Yeah, you get on, you ride her to freedom. But they got them people over there, you know, and detained at this point. But let's take a look at the final clip of the day. We have a video show stage collapsing at campaign rally in Mexico. Now, when you hear a stage collapsing at a campaign rally in Mexico, the first thing you think of is the cartel. Did the cartel loosen some of the bolts and screws on the stage? But then you also think it is Mexico. Are they still going through the proper procedures of stage checking? I live in Vegas. There's a lot of people who do like stage work, and before you ever anybody ever go on stage, or there's always the procedures of going through, making sure everything is working right, and that the structure is stable. Now, a 38 mile gust of wind blew this stage down, so you know, only in Mexico. Let's take a look at the clip.
Stage collapsing during a campaign rally in Oriol, Mexico, with thousands in attendance. This witness says,
and you know, in the United States, when that stage collapsed like that, you could sue. Yeah, you know, there's somebody to blame. In Mexico, I don't know if there's the same, like they have the same procedures, like they have the same people that you can hold accountable. I don't know who's supposed to be checking on that stage. But in America, that stage fall, it's a huge lawsuit coming from somebody's ass.
saw the people closest to the stage get buried under its metallic beams. Emergency workers and attendees seem desperately trying to rescue victims and loved ones from the rubble.
God rest those people's soul in Mexico, too.
People are dead, including a child. After strong wind gusts appeared to cause the collapse as chaos erupted. The governor says at least 121 people were left injured. This man, thanking God he was able to walk away with just a head and an arm injury. The campaign event organized by the Movimiento Ciudadano Party had various political figures in attendance, including presidential candidate Jorge Maynez. Maynez was on stage the moment of the collapse. This video shows him looking up at the falling structure and quickly running to the...
Hey, Amigo got out of Dodge, Jack. It looked like he was at the NFL Combine and running a 40-yard dash. Look at him again.
Jorge Maynez. Maynez was on stage the moment of the collapse. This video shows him looking up at the falling
I'm gone.
structure and quickly running to the back.
When he took off, he literally said, "Adios, amigos. Buenas noches."
Maynez had shared this video hours before, inviting supporters to attend. Yet earlier in the day, Mexico's National Meteorological Service sharing this forecast warning of a probability of the formation of whirlwinds and tornadoes in the region.
Lo sentimos mucho.
This morning, Mexican President López Obrador offering sympathies to families who lost loved ones, adding there will be an investigation. The tragedy occurring at the height of the campaign season, ahead of the country's June 2nd presidential election.
As for the presidential candidate, Jorge Maynez, his campaign says they're going to be stopping all events as he focuses on helping the victims of this tragedy. Also, the leading presidential candidate in Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, has announced that she has canceled a large event that was set to take place today near the same area where this tragedy took place. Again, all of the focus right now being placed on helping the victims and their families. Ellison?
We're Vegas in our Miami border. Beer.
Thanks for watching.
I mean, yeah, that's terrible. But obviously that structure was not very sound. That one gust of wind hit it. It folded up like a cheap suit. Not good. But the Mexican presidential, the guy who's running for president of Mexico, he got out of there. Yeah, he wasn't going to die that way. Do I think the cartel has something to do with that? No, it just looked like poor maintenance. And they ain't checked on that structure probably in 2 or 3 years. That's what it looks like because it folded up so easily. It looked like a regular little tent you put outside and go camping with. But yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, God rest those people's soul. But, you know, I appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's #1 couch detective. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I just took your ass on. If you a pedophile, you deserve the death penalty ride. Peace.